Happy New Year, everyone. In this video, we're going to be going over some predictions about the general energy, what to expect for this year, the new year, 2026. So I'm going to be doing the astrology. I have Thomas Sheridan doing tarot, and I have Jason Heppenstall. He's looking at geomancy and ogham. And then I have my friend Leif, and he is going to be looking at the runes so that we can advise you all on what to expect for this year. So enjoy. All right, the astrology for 2026. I am a Western astrologer, but I just wanted to mention about the Chinese New Year. We're in the year of the fire horse. And it lines up, honestly, like it's exactly reflecting the Western astrology because we have so much fire this year, which really is a welcome change. We've had a lot of water, especially Saturn in Pisces has been the most awful transit, I think. There's been loss, there's been a lot of sorrow, and just, general not nice things to deal with. We've had Neptune in Pisces as well, Jupiter in Cancer. There's been a lot of water, which means a lot of emotions and a bit of instability as well. I know the world, which is generally always unstable, but in our personal lives. And last year was the Chinese year of the snake. And I just saw, my goodness, skin shedding, a lot of endings, a lot of getting used to new situations in our lives and trying to make the most of that. So this year, both in the Chinese and the Western astrology, it's a year of fire, action, things progressing, moving forwards, a lot of energy. Yes, it can be heated, more heated in your personal relationships. But there is a chance of progress, things moving forward. Yes, in the world, it could get more heated as well, quite literally in some occasions, we could have more fires and things like that. But I think on a personal level, we should be feeling better this year, depending on your own personal transits, of course. You can get a reading from me if you'd like to know what those are and what to expect, and you can book a reading with me. But generally speaking, I think it's going to be a bit better, especially as we get into the summertime. We've got Jupiter entering Leo. We have Saturn in Aries and not Pisces. That was the most brutal transit for me personally because it made so many squares to my chart. I lost someone very important to me. It's just there was a lot of sorrow connected to it. So I'll be glad to see the back of Saturn in Pisces. A lot of people complained about bad luck as well. I know someone's going to say, well, actually, I had a great year. That's good, but most of the people that I know didn't. And I think that we can honestly expect improvements. Now, just to start off with all of the astrology, the Mercury retrogrades, they are in water signs this year. So those Mercury retrogrades are in Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. So there is still some wrapping up to do, especially in terms of emotions and connections that we have with other people, deaths and endings as well. Okay, so Mercury retrograde in Pisces, that happens on February the 26th until March 20th. Now that might be a bit of a tricky, weird one where there's kind of reality is distorted in some way. There can be an increase in spirit activity and things like that because Pisces is about non-physical reality. It is about the kind of bridge or gap between our world and the other worlds. Can get a bit wonky and a bit weird. Not particularly that bad, but wrapping up something. It's definitely wrapping up or ending something to the Saturn in Pisces transit and Neptune as well. So by the end of that one, we should get a good sense of what is really real in our lives and what was false or maybe an illusion before. Then June 29th to July 23rd, we've got Mercury retrograde in Cancer. Cancer is connected to the home, it's connected to security, also the past. And the past has been a big thing, I think, with Jupiter in Cancer. So Jupiter makes everything bigger, it expands. It is exalted in Cancer, but exalted does not mean that it's everything is brilliant. We also get more of the kind of negative stuff as well. But Mercury retrograde in Cancer, we could have some issues or reviewing or restructuring stuff to do with the home, with your emotions, pregnancy, perhaps. Cancer is fertile sign, and just what makes us feel secure and what doesn't, and how do we manage and deal with our emotions. So then the final one at the end of the year, October 24th to November 13th, Mercury is retrograde in Scorpio. Now, we just had one of those. It did go retrograde in Sagittarius, but it moved back into Scorpio. Now, a lot of people lost cats around this time. So I want to warn you is to check your cats to see if they've got any health issues way before this happens. And you can get a blood test done at the vet easily to see if they've got any kidney issues or heart. Heart issues are really common in cats. They can be caused by parasites, tick bites, a lack of taurine. There are, different causes, but there's a really bizarrely high percentage. They say it's genetic. I don't think it's genetic. So do get your cats checked out. Give them hawthorn if they have any heart issues. It's safe for cats. So just a warning, nothing to freak out about, but Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is generally going to be about endings. It's going to be about stuff that is not really particularly pleasant to deal with. It's hard, but the good side of that is that we can transform and we can grow from it and we become more empowered afterwards. So we also have a Venus retrograde in Scorpio that is happening on October the 3rd to November 13th. So Mercury and Venus are going to be retrograde in Scorpio. So what I said about Mercury retrograde applies. However, you also want to add particularly about love and pleasure and beauty and things that bring you joy and your kind of diplomatic relations with other people. Those are all things that Venus rules. So we'll be reviewing those things at the end of the year. So let's talk about the eclipses then. We have, what is an eclipse? First of all, it can be either a lunar eclipse, which happens on a full moon, or it can be a solar eclipse, which happens on a new moon. And the lunar eclipse is really about like endings, things wrapping up. And the solar eclipse is about a new beginning. Now, we have the Vedic people who say that eclipses are always malefic and you shouldn't even go outdoors when there's an eclipse. And then we also have new age Western astrologers who can decode it and make it into something that it's really not. I kind of am in between that. I think that they have the power to kind of drain or dissolve something, but we also have opportunities that can grow and arise from, for example, a solar eclipse. It depends on where they fall in your chart as well. But no, I don't think we should hide indoors. And eclipses will all affect different lengths of time. People say 6 months, but however, how many hours that the eclipse is visible for is in months, how long it will affect us for. It's usually a couple of months to 6 months. Sometimes, though, it can be a couple of years. But if you follow me in Substack, I will go over each eclipse individually closer to the time and let you know what's happening. I'm also spending way more time on Substack these days than YouTube. It's more rewarding and less hassle with algorithms and all that kind of stuff as well. So do follow me there. I make weekend updates. I also have a podcast for my paid subscribers, where I do a full monthly astrological forecast. So back to the eclipses. The first one is February the 17th. We've got a solar eclipse in Aquarius. I'm kind of looking forward to that one myself because it's making some good aspects to my chart. But generally speaking, it's going to be perhaps triggering some kind of events in the world, in certain places connected to freedom fighting, standing up for humanity, that type of thing that Aquarius is known for. Also technology. So the next one is on March 3rd. They come in pairs, so we always have a solar and then a lunar eclipse afterwards. March 3rd, we've got the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. So the moon is in Virgo, the sun is in Pisces. It's I just want to see the end of the anything in Pisces. It's not that I don't like Pisces, but it does not work with my chart at all. But we can expect endings connected to whatever house you've got Virgo in your chart. But generally speaking, Virgo is about health, hygiene, order, small details, but also anxiety. I don't know if you know any Virgos, but they get themselves worked up into a frenzy over small things. Well, not small to them, perhaps, but small to other people. You can't see the wood for the tree. So expect your anxiety levels to really ramp up a bit on, around March 3rd, maybe for a couple of months afterwards. So find coping ways to cope with that. Take your magnesium, go for a walk, have a bath, knock yourself out with a sleeping tablet. Hey, sometimes you have to do it because if nothing gets you to sleep, then you have to help yourself in some way. Then August the 12th, we've got a solar eclipse in Leo, which is nice. Again, fire. There's a lot of fire this year, a lot of action, and this will help us to feel more empowered. There could be, if it's doing a certain, connection to your chart, you might find yourself in a leadership position or, in the spotlight in some way, but it will be different for everyone. But generally speaking, I think things with Leo are positive. The solar eclipse might have a bit of a draining effect on that energy. But if you can make the most of it and plan before. Leo is also about our self-esteem, how good we are, how we feel, how proud we are of ourselves, which is important. It's important to be proud of yourself and to do things that make you feel proud. It's especially important for young people, teenagers and young people into their 20s and 30s. It's important that they have things that they do that bring that sense of accomplishment and to make them feel good about themselves instead of like making them feel like a victim. But I'll get to the victim part soon because we'll be talking about Neptune. But finally, on August 28th, there's a partial solar eclipse in Pisces. So that's kind of the end of, I believe it's the end. I haven't checked next year's astrology, but a lot of Piscean themes are ending. What are Piscean themes? It's Abrahamic religions. Maybe not ending. Some are certainly not ending. They're getting a lot bigger, but there can be an end of any illusions or fantasies that we have held for some time. And Pisces also is like kind of rose tinted glasses or makes things feel beautiful and really nice, but sometimes that gets in the way of reality. So some planetary ingresses of 2026. Now I'm just doing the social planets and the outer planets because the sun and Mars and all of that, they change quite frequently. One of the big ones is that in January the 26th, Neptune enters Aries, which is a good thing because like I said on my podcast the other day, Neptune in Pisces was all about the victim. Victimhood was just glorified and people were encouraged to see themselves as victims. And trauma became a booming industry where people make money off your trauma and, trying to help you like heal your trauma Well, yes, it can help, but I feel like the only person that can really do that is you. And you don't have to pay anyone to do it either. I mean, I'm always going on about the ancestral path, like that's what worked for me. So maybe it can work for you as well. We've all got ancestral stuff that we need to clear that we do through ritual and venerating our ancestors. Instead of constantly feeling like the victim. And 40 years after something has happened, if you're still going over and over it in your head, you need to find something else to do because it's not working. It's a waste of your life to feel this way. So Neptune in Aries is going to change that. Neptune is a lot about what we glorify and what is like kind of fantastical and beautiful and what we idealize. Aries is the hero. It's the hero. So instead of glorifying the victim or weaknesses, we are going to start to look at people that we deem to be heroic. Now, there isn't an awful lot about an awful lot of that around these days, but we can look to the past, people that were alive 2,000 years ago, and their household names today. You know, it can be anyone. It could be, I'm reading the Scandinavian sagas at the moment, and they're full of heroes, and their lives were full of like death and trauma and stuff. But they really got on with that, and they made it a point of the purpose of their existence to combat that and to move past. Those things and achieve greatness. So Neptune in Aries, yeah, that's a good, this is a good thing. Also, beautiful bodies, beautiful figures. I think that woke trend. I'm not saying you have to look like a supermodel or something to be, perceived as beautiful. Beautiful really is about the person's personality. And but aesthetics, I think, will become more important. And that whole trend of massively obese, like people modeling Calvin Klein underwear, I think that's going to drop away as people want to be kind of healthy and Aries like again and athletic. So then we've got Saturn entering Aries February the 13th. So if you look back to it, had a brief dip around the beginning of last year, 2025. So this can be definitely stuff about war, I have to say, especially the Saturn Neptune conjunction is going to be about a war that is based on deception. I know most of them are these days, probably all of them, but keep your eyes open, like especially when it comes to stuff like CGI and AI and all of that, they can fake things really easily. I also think it's important not to get involved and look at things with a very black and white way. Oh, this person is bad, so the other guy is good. Well, is anyone really on our side anymore? Because it sure as hell doesn't feel like that if you're in Europe and you're a native European. I don't think anyone's on our side except for ourselves. And it's important to kind of band together and make connections with people that live close to you. Yeah, maybe you don't like them that much or you haven't got to know them at all. I think we need each other. We need that sense of community again, and it's going to become more and more important. But Saturn entering Aries, it's really about authenticity and becoming very sure about who you are. It's also about wars, Saturnian kind of karmic lessons connected to wars and conflict and yeah, that type of thing. Uranus is entering Gemini again on April the 25th. So we've already had a big taste of that. It's about Uranus in itself is connected to technology, advanced technology, and Gemini is communications and languages. Excuse me. So that is going to really progress. Progressions in technology and AI and all of that stuff with Uranus and Gemini, because Gemini can be a bit of a trickster. It's mercurial. It's an Odinic kind of thing. It may be increasingly hard to figure out exactly what is real and what is fake. I was just talking about this with one of my friends earlier, and we were talking about fake AI videos. There's videos out there of people or a guy riding a bear down a highway in Canada, and people are sharing it thinking it's real. So that's kind of disturbing. But we were also saying, well, when is someone going to invent a piece of software that you can run a video through and find out if it's real or fake, or AI made? Well, that's probably going to happen, I would say, which is good. June 30th, we've got Jupiter entering Leo, which I'm really quite excited about. It does good things to my chart, but for everyone, Jupiter expands. It makes things much bigger, and it is a benefic planet, and it does shower us with blessings. But it's not all roses, and it is about luck, and it is about joy and optimism, looking at the future. And when it's in Leo, we're very proactive about that. So stuff like leadership abilities will increase, confidence can increase. Um, some people might find themselves in a position where, they have to become a leader, they have to take the spotlight for some reason. Downside, I guess, would be like people's egos getting bigger, or kind of ruthless grabs of power, with Jupiter and Leo, especially as it opposes Pluto in Aquarius. We can't forget about that part. But you might feel more creative. This is a very creative flame that we get from Jupiter and Leo, which is excellent, and kind of also in line with what Thomas came up with in his reading. Creativity, expression. It could be a good summer with these planets, all in fire and an air sign. It might be a better summer, I would say, for many of us. And it's definitely something to look forward to, and we might feel more carefree. I do think there are going to be some bad things happening in the global sense, but for us, for like the tribe, I think that we could really make something great out of this summer, full of creativity. So don't get like frozen by the news, and you don't do anything or go anywhere. Go and enjoy your life. You can really get something out of it this summer. Be with people that you love, because Leo is connected to the heart. It's ruled by the sun. Make those family connections or friend connections, and they are, that's going to be something that's really good. So some aspects that we have, January 27th, which isn't far away, we've got Mars conjunct Pluto, which is a one to really watch out for, because it is connected with a very violent event. Not sure what. It's in Aquarius, so it could definitely really affect the United States in some way. But watch yourself on that day. It's not the type of day where you should go into the city and be in crowds and stuff like that. I wouldn't. On a personal level, you might feel very ruthless and driven, or someone else might be. There can be power struggles, and you could be feeling, your Mars energy, your aggression might be really kind of hyped up around this time. February the 20th, we have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries, which people have been talking about for some time now. So I've already mentioned, with Saturn in Aries, there's a great burden of leadership, because Saturn is about burdens. It's also about time and things ending, which is why I think I know there are specific reasons why a lot of people have died recently, but I also think that a lot of people have just, their time was up. The Pisces is the last sign. We've come to an end with something really big here. And Saturn in Aries is the great burden of the new world that we live in and the new life. And some people are going to be forced into those leadership positions because, like I said, we don't really have very many people on our side anymore. So you have to step up. You have to step up for your family and for your community. and get going. So Saturn in Aries is also definitely connected to war. And like I said earlier, Saturn conjunct Neptune, February the 20th, there definitely can be a war that starts or progresses that is based on some kind of deception because Neptune is deceptive. It's the Hall of Mirrors. It's it's everything that is fake, basically, like Hollywood and movies and all of that. Fake isn't always bad. I mean, art is fake and it's beautiful and it's a source of great joy. But Saturn conjunct Neptune, there is something quite difficult that happens around this time. Most likely, it's connected to some kind of war or violence. So remember what I said. Don't think about us versus them. Think about them in all of their leadership roles around the world and how none of us are doing anything to help us and how they're all in it for their own greedy gain. The Kali Yuga kings, none of them care about their people. It's all about installing this new world order that they've planned and dissolving the individual tribes and making it into one like sea of slaves. That's basically what they want, which is very Neptune and Aries as well. So July the 18th, we've got Uranus trine Pluto, which is good. A trine is a positive aspect, and there could be, if it does something in your chart, because these are outer planets, they're not more powerful than Saturn or Jupiter. So don't expect life-changing stuff, but it can be something new, something positive, something that brings you joy and fun. There also could be new developments in technology or something around this time because of Uranus and Gemini. And Pluto is in Aquarius. So then a couple of days later, we've got Jupiter opposite Pluto. And this can be a bit of a dangerous one because Pluto is very wants to dominate and wants power and wants the upper hand above anything. And Jupiter is this like kind of massive like leader or represents maybe some kind of elite person or kings or royalty or nobility, which we don't really have any of that anymore. Like it's not real because they have no power whatsoever. But it could set off something explosive, I would say, on the 20th. Um, so watch out for that. I guess when it comes to everyday life stuff, you might be feeling we are like overinflated ego or a big head. Or it could be about very abrupt change that happens that causes you to become more powerful, or even shakes your sense of power in some way. But I think the trine with Pluto as well, they happen very close together. Uranus trine Pluto and then Jupiter opposite Pluto within days. So maybe something difficult that turns out to be something a bit better. So then on July the 26th, the South Node enters Leo and the North Node enters Aquarius. So that's all the way through to 2028. And I, for one, am glad because it means that Rahu or the North Node is not in Pisces anymore. And it's a more energetic feel that we have. It's fire, it's energy, it's vibrant, it's enthusiastic. Now with Leo on the South Node is stuff that we're moving away from. And it's interesting because that goes against all of the fire and the other planets. But with the North Node in Aquarius, there's going to be a rebellion, which is a good thing because Aquarius is the rebel. It's sorting out the natural order. It's ruled by Saturn. Saturn is connected with natural law. So that can only be a positive thing. And it is about moving away. Not entirely, because we need to retain a sense of ourselves, of our egos, and who we are and belief. We need those things. But it's about using those qualities to achieve the North Node in Aquarius, which is about being there for your tribe, for your locals, people that live next door. Come together because we need each other. So then we've got Chiron in Taurus. So that's interesting. Now it's only there for a really brief period. It's the first taste of it, because Chiron will go retrograde and it will go back into Aries. So Chiron in Taurus, June 18th to September 17th. So Chiron is the wound. It's always known as the wounded healer. It is, but it's also a teacher because in the mythology, Chiron was said to be the justest and fairest of them all. He was adopted by the god Apollo and his sister Artemis because they felt bad for him because Chiron did not fit in anywhere. He was half beast. He didn't look like the gods. He didn't act like the other centaurs. They were very beastly and fornicating, and drinking, but he was refined. And Apollo taught him all of his gifts like astrology, healing, natural medicine, music, poetry. And Chiron kind of, you know, got really skilled in those areas and he became a master healer and a teacher. So Chiron is the teacher. It doesn't fit in anywhere. Even in astronomy, it doesn't fit into any particular category. They always call it an asteroid or, it's even got some comet-like qualities. So Chiron in Taurus is the wound about security. Taurus wants security. It wants money in the bank and food in the fridge. It wants a stable life. For some reason, Chiron in Taurus is not giving us that stability that we crave. Is it about war or something? I don't know. Or just the times that we live in. So we will have to achieve that. And yes, I'm drinking a full sugar Coke. Bite me. So that's on ourselves. Like we have to find our own sense of security, which we can by going back to a lot of the old ways, putting down your phone and making an effort to get to know people, like I say, that live near you instead of halfway across the world. I do love my friends, my international friends, but if the doo-doo hits the fan, we need each other. It potentially is also about wounds with, and financial structures, maybe the food, food and things like that. But wherever Chiron wounds, it can also heal to a certain extent. So that is the general overview of the astrology for this year, the new year. And I feel like it is way more positive than 2025. There's a lot of potential there. There's a good summer coming, a nice hot summer, with all that fire. And we might feel creative and happy if you tear yourself away from all of the negative news. Um, Obviously, yes, there are going to be some things happening in the world, but it's a waste to sit there and be full of anxiety every night when you can go outside into your beautiful garden and harvest your fruit and just have some fun and be in nature and come together with people that you love. We've all got someone. We all need someone. We're not designed just to speak to people or speak to AI on the phone. That just isn't realistic for us. We're creative, we're spiritual, we're dreamers. So I will leave it at that. So thanks again. Thanks for listening, everyone. All the best for 2026 and enjoy the rest of the video clips. Welcome, everyone. So I'm joined by Thomas Sheridan, and we are going to be looking at 2026. Thomas is going to be looking at his tarot cards. So let's get right to it. Thomas, what have you got for us?
In terms of 2026 predictions,
Yeah.
haven't a clue. It's like I feel like those remote viewers who can't see past a certain date. That's how I feel about 2026.
Ooh.
Things are changing so strange quickly, and look at last year. You woke up in the morning not knowing what the world was going to be like that day. There was drastic changes in everything. Things could switch overnight 180 degrees. The real sense of some kind of like primal force is rearranging itself. Now, I does that mean that it will have rearranged itself in 2026 or will it continue? I just don't know. All I know is whatever happens, it'll probably be a great surprise. We'll probably, you know, find that the next year will be just as full of novelty as last year and the previous year, 2024. Why? I don't know. I just don't. We live in such a strange, convoluted time. It's almost like it feels like you're in a when you look into a washing machine and you're trying to find a piece of clothing, but it's all the other clothing and it's
Hmm.
spinning around. That's what the world feels like right now. Everything is in a washing machine spinning, and you can't make out what's what. It's just there's things there, but they're flying around outside you. And that's how I feel about next year. I honestly haven't got a clue. Now, I don't have any negative feelings. I don't have any positive feelings. I have no feelings about it. It is a kind of a dark time right now. There's been a lot of deaths around me in the last month or so,
Me
and
too.
all kinds of deaths, and uh, like people were checking out or something. And what was so worrying about it was how young many were. They say like the older you get, the more dead people you know. Now, I could probably invoke that excuse, but some of these people are in their 30s,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And this is what's so weird. All of them are much younger and some much younger than me. And I wouldn't say anyone close as such. Maybe one person was close with, but the majority were like people I just casually knew in my life, and they just gone, and some of them were friends. So that that's some of the 2025 for me, the great departure. It was almost like a kind of when the Christians talk about the rapture and everyone like going, it almost felt like that. Now, why that is, there's all kinds of speculation out there as to why that could be. But even if there was a kind of a prosaic reason for it, it's still weird. It's still very weird. So I'm not one of these people that's going to say it's darkest before the dawn or things. I'm not a doom monkey. I'm none of those types. I try to live day to day as best I can with like kind of one eye on the future, that kind of, look. And I just don't see anything spectacular. I don't see anything, but I do see weirdness. Things that's if there's one, okay, here's the one prediction I will make for next year. I think things are going to get even more weird
Yeah.
in the world. That's the that but in what way? I don't know, but they're going to get weird.
Hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. Astrology kind of points to that as well. So
Yeah.
it feels weird at the moment. It feels like we're in some kind of like liminal space. Um, that's all that I can say about it as well. You can't really define it. It's difficult.
Yeah, it is. It's like we're in between a gap, parentheses between a gap somewhere, like between two brackets, and we haven't crossed it yet. Now, there's good points to that. There's no trouble really. There's bad points to it. Is it's like it's hard to make plans. But I think if I was to give advice to people, like there's even no Renfield or anything like that I've noticed lately, even
Mm.
locally, people are kind of like I have to say, like I went out, among the public for Christmas. And it was actually it felt like a Christmas years ago. People were just going about their business being and getting their doing their shopping and generally seemed to be a positive, well, a nice vibe. The shops were busy, people were going around. It reminded me of like the 1980s or something.
Mm.
But I don't know how much of that was like false or fake. But yeah, but at the same time too, there was like if I was to put my finger on why things are like the way they are, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. Is there something cosmic? I don't know. Are people burnt out by world events? I'd absolutely say they are. You look on the last year, they're supposed to have like everything from aliens to, Epstein files and all that kind. And it's all, to the, wars in Eastern Europe. And it's like I think people are jaded. They're not even really the news can't make them interested anymore. And there seems to be like I said, a primal force is rearranging. But having said that, not in a kind of heavy way. Like it's not
Hmm.
like everyone's sitting down and saying, "Well, I've got to start making date changes in my life," and there's none of that going on. It's almost
Yeah.
like everyone's like floating around on the ocean, waiting to see where the next wave is going to take us. That's exactly how I'd put it next year.
Yeah. There's a sort of flatness around at the moment.
Mm.
And now that you say it, actually there hasn't been any rain feeling for ages.
And there has been no drama. Like last Christmas was an awful time for me. The horrible storms wrecked my property and, wrecked the house and just caught, and I got, I was illness and stuff like that. And, so I'm just happy at a quiet and peace this year. It's compared to last Christmas which was a horror show. And things worked out in the end, but it took a long bloody time for it to sort out. And so I'm just very happy that we're in neutral gear right now and we're like coasting. That's how I feel right now, and I'm happy with that. I wouldn't mind if that continued for the rest of the year, to be honest with you. Just like going along.
Yeah. I don't think it will. So probably enjoy it while it lasts if we
What what
can.
what is your sort of divination foresight for the year?
Well, right now we're getting to the end of Saturn in Pisces. And Pisces as a sign is a kind of liminal space. It's like a bridge, between one world and the next.
Yeah, the
So,
deep dive, yeah.
yeah. So I think that we're all kind of picking up on that, but it was a dreadful transit. It was full of sorrow for different people. And it's good that we're getting to the end of that. I think we'll probably feel differently in February, middle February.
In what way though?
I would say that things spice up a bit, energetically speaking.
Like the world will get a bit more kind of feisty or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's do the tarot cards and see if it has any statement on what we're talking about. Will I do that now?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, now, like, I don't do divination with these, okay? I mean, I'm not against it. What I do is I see these as kind of like a way to break out of, like, alphanumeric current space-time thinking, and they use pictures to see things differently in a different way because it's using symbols rather than logos or numbers. And you see the symbols because your subconscious mind was invented before language. Sorry, before language and writing was invented, it kind of gets to the heart of the matter. Now, I do this reading system that I've done for many years where I count out, I shuffle the deck 11 times, and then I do every 11 card is the seventh card. Sorry, it's part of seven cards. One is the past and things behind us on the left-hand side. At the top is the significator, the actual matter at hand going forward. And then the three down the side are like almost like positive, well, not necessarily positive, but roadmaps for where we might be going. So I'll explain to as we're going, but I'll just do the cards first. So I have to shuffle them 11 times. Now keep in your mind thinking of, and it includes the readers at home, the watchers at home, next year, feelings, inclinations, emotions you might have. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The reason why I pick 11 is a number that cannot be numerically broken down. It's a strange number. It's kind of almost outside reality. It can't be resolved into a lot of different formula and stuff like that. It's a strange, peculiar number. And that's why I pick 11. And 7 is because 7 is such a significant number in human affairs. So I count that 11th one. Now the first card relates to where we've come from, but on a kind of a subconscious level. It's not particularly serious and indicative of the real world. And it is, yep, the sham fight, the arguments, let me get my glasses on. The seven of wands. the, the Seven of Wands. Seven of Wands represent, no, sorry, represents a fight. But at this level, it's kind of like a sham fight. You're besieged. You're feeling attacked. You're trying to hold on to yourself. You're trying to hold on to what you stand for, and you're holding out. But it's almost like you're kind of like worried too much about things because look, you have the upper hand, you have the higher ground, you are in control of the situation. So when I say like it's almost like a fight, a sham fight, but it is because you are in control. Those ones below you are attempting to take you down, but you're up there. You're not trying to get to the top. You've already kind of assumed ascendancy. It's just maintaining your stature against forces that seek to undermine you. But at the same time, they've got to do much more work than you've got to do.
Yeah.
So that means in terms of a kind of a subconscious going forward thing, well, we've come through the year through a lot of shit. I know I have, and I know many of us have. But hey, we're still standing, we're still here. And remember that you've actually achieved the dominance in regard of stressful situations. So that's actually a fairly positive one. People
Yeah.
see that as a negative card. It's not, it's a positive card. Now that's on the past where we've come from in the subconscious world. Like the next one, oh, the King of Swords.
Hmm.
Now the King of Swords often represents sort of like brutal decisions, decision making, tough laws, tough rules. But because it's on the negative side of the deck, we're probably being subject to a lot of negative enforcements and prohibitions that are being passed upon us, which we are anyway, especially if we live here in Europe. We're having to live with these kind of laws that are not serving us. They're
Hmm.
serving the power structure, but they're also for the negative side of the power structure, and that the power structure is having difficulty holding on to enforcing these statutes, these prohibitions, which are unjust. So the king may have the power of the state and the law, and the sword represents, action and directness, but he's not on the positive side. He's, I mean, that would be kind of, if I was put that into a world figure, it'd be someone like Keir Starmer. That's who I would
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, that's who I was
Almost,
thinking
like
of.
like like you worked in a place where a boss thought he was a big shot boss, but he was really an idiot and didn't know what he was doing. That's the kind of how who's running the world right now. A
Yeah.
lot of our politicians, a lot of our leaders are like this. Okay. Okay.
Oh, nice.
The Two of Cups, but in the negative.
Oh.
This represents a disharmony, and it's
Oh.
quite significant. So this not doesn't necessarily mean love in this sort of romantic sense always. It represents it's almost like balance. And I'm looking at the symbol above the cup. So there's this very strong alchemical and biological factor to these cups. And I can't help but wonder if that's representing an imbalance caused by the DNA in the needlecraft.
Oh, yeah, because
Is
it
that
just looks
going to,
like,
you see,
yeah, yeah.
and is this to deal with the sort of like the gender issues we have in the world? Is that all coming to a very negative conclusion? I'm seeing that. I'm seeing there's a lion face as a demo rouge like staring down at them. You see,
Mm-hmm.
this is on the positive side. This is about harmony, balance, natural law. Natural law is a huge part of this card. And this is in the negative now. So if I was to put on my mystical sort of seer kind of things, I would say this has to do with the fallout from the transubstantiation of the sacred needlecraft or
Mm-hmm.
unsacred needlecraft.
Yeah.
Maybe this will be the next year will be the year that people will say they fucking poisoned us. Maybe, maybe, or maybe it's the year they really start dropping in numbers. And
Yeah.
that's why I say that's a disharmony in natural law reduced to biological uh, structure, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And you all know it emanates from the psyche, the mind up. So disharmony in the body, the mind, the soul. So that to me is quite significant. And
Yeah.
maybe the sword in Keir Starmer's hands is the needlecraft.
Yeah. That's what it looks like.
You see how it makes you think differently?
Yeah.
Now, the next one is the most important card of the year going forward. This is almost like the road sign. And it is the Seven of Pentacles, another seven, and a very good card. The Seven of Pentacles represents the flowering or fruition of hard work coming into play. So those of us who abide by natural law and have, like, done good works, it will serve us well next year. We will collect the harvest of our labors. It's coming along nicely. We're going to get paid off. Of course, if you're on the other side of it, that you're going to harvest the darkness. So this is the significator card. Like I don't do upside down readings so much because they all have negative and positive attributes.
Yeah.
So that I would say it's a very positive card, but only for people who have done the work. Now they've planted their own garden, made their own life, fertilized their own soil, and he's standing on his own. He's not a farmer. He's not in a commune. He's not in a co-op. He's a solitary homesteader farmer. Now, this is not necessarily to do with agriculture. This is the farming of the soul, the farming of the mind, the farming of the subconscious. So I would say, for people who've done the work and haven't fallen to the darkness of the three first cards, we're going to be okay this year. So I would say that's quite a positive thing, but only if you've done the work and abided by natural law.
Great. Because
So
we are
that's
starting to see that already, aren't we? There,
we
the
are
the
definitely, we're
people,
definitely,
yeah, the people
yeah,
that
like,
have violated it are kind of dropping like flies.
yeah, and people who who have actually did the hard, dug in the soil back 4 years ago and planted the seeds of a new reality for themselves rather than taking the king's sword. Well, they've got a few. What does that card really say? You can look forward to the future. See, the coins, the pentacle are still on the plant. They're still on the bushes. They haven't been harvested yet. They're on the way. Good
Great.
stewardship. That would indicate for people like us a positive summer and
Good.
autumn.
Good.
That is very good. I'm very surprised. I didn't expect that. The next one will be the most important card, representing positive things that can help us. Even if it's a negative card, it may be negative in our favor rather than what I mean by that is it may hurt someone else. And it is a great card, the Four of Wands. The Four of Wands means reunion. This is the tribe, coming together. It often represents things like weddings and marriage and festivals and parades. And so this is actually a very positive card. So it's the Four of Wands represents a celebration of life, a celebration of the circle of life, a celebration of the meaning of life. So that ties in very nicely with the last one.
Great.
So we're looking at next year's starting to look very positive.
Good.
And this one will represent, again, an indicator, a roadmap concerning both the subconscious mind and the conscious world, the material world, the spiritual world, up and down, as above, so below. So we balance about it together. And my God, it's directly across from the King of Swords, the Queen.
Oh.
Now, the Queen of Swords is the sort of like the compassionate lawgiver compared to the King of Swords. She's strict, she's just, but because of her female nature, she tends to be more compassionate. So we're probably moving into a kind of a strong feminine aspect next year. I
Hmm.
don't know if anybody else, is seeing that, but a strong, rather than like messed up women, or like this could be the year where we say, no, a man can't be a woman.
Hmm.
Only a woman can, and women start to turn and start to say, we're going to reclaim our rights. We're not going to be, lose our place in reality to men pretending to be women.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
it's directly across from the King of Swords.
that's
Wow.
great.
Wow. And that also has and between both sides of the tower, both sides of the deck has an element of collective balance. So, I mean, I don't want to get too positive, but it's looking great for next year so
Good.
far.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
the final card, which represents the subconscious world, here it is. This is what's going on inside of us next year. Wouldn't you know it? The Empress. Next year is about the female. Next year is about the women reclaiming their place in the world, balancing out disruptions in the natural law brought about by the craziness of the woke thing regarding men and women. Those of us who've seen it through have planted our garden, and we will reap the benefits of being on the right side of history. And it was a sham fight all along. It wasn't. We were never really in any great danger, and we look forward to a year of I would say, a very feminine, things to do with fertility, things
Hmm.
to do with reproduction, things to do with motherhood, things to do with the anima rather than animus. The animus was broken last year, and don't be surprised if some women come center stage in the world this year, in a way that's quite uh, good for humanity. And so next, it's like the clock has struck 12 at midnight this New Year's Eve, and we're now falling into the feminine aspect, the anima, which has strong lunar associations as well. So the moon, I would definitely be very interested in next year. And fertility, motherhood, uh, a balancing out of incorrections in the female structure. I would say, all in all, next year is looking at quite a, that song by Kate Bush, "Mother Stands for Comfort." It's that like that. Yeah, so I have to say that's a very positive reading, and I'm actually glad I
Good.
did it now, because it's always a
Good.
bit scary doing this stuff on live.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and there was
Great.
nothing weird happened, like cards fell or anything. So yeah, so it's over to you, ladies. Next year,
Yeah.
next year you're like next year the women will be like, on the old ships they used to have a female goddess or something on the front. It's
Hmm.
going to be like that. The women are going to lead the way next year,
That's
and
great.
the men, the men and the women who ignored all the statutes and the madness of the previous age have created the correction. It's very much a sense of the pendulum swinging back, you know, out of corrupted alchemy, into fertility, into so yeah, I think it'd be a good year for artists, people who are creative, people who have a kind of a need to make new things, whatever kind of thing like that. So it's good for artists. It's good for There'll be a strong lunar aspect. So all year long, there will be I think this is a year to watch your dreams, to observe the moon, and and it's almost like the men are being given a rest or something. It's interesting. It's always how the world balances out strangely that way. But it's yeah, you know, countries that are named after women, era, Mother Russia, places that anything that has a strong female maternal element to it.
Hmm.
Watch these places, and yeah, that's just really got me thinking now, big time. So, hmm, there we
That's
go.
great. Fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm really glad I did that now because I feel a lot better.
Yeah, yeah, so do I, actually. Those are two really strong female figures that you pulled. You know, the Empress and the
And
Queen of Swords.
and it explains why I don't feel any kind of feelings about worrying about anything next year because Mama is taking care of it.
Yeah, the goddess is taking care of it. I really feel that strongly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mother's wisdom, female wisdom, and learning how to enjoy the good things in life again that we work so hard to bring to fruition against a world of imbalances in natural law, destruction of genders, the prohibitions of the men of swords, the men of the pointed poison that we were so worried about and fought deep down inside about. But in the end, the gods provided, the goddesses provided.
yeah.
Flora might be a very powerful goddess next year. The
Hmm.
concept, so that's one to watch. And I don't see a kind of a Morrigan goddess or anything like that. I see like Flora, I see Vesta, I see Freya. I don't see, a war goddess kind of thing. I see very much like, the mammy who slaps you over the head and says, "Shut up and eat your dinner," kind of thing. That kind of thing. That kind of mammy. So there you go.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Something to look forward to.
Yeah, hopefully, and that's the way I'm seeing it now. Now what this does is because it's not divination, it puts you in a different frame of mind. We look at the news and it's all these men who are like fucking the world up. And then you pull out the cards like this and you say, well, there is an alternative. There's the feminine side of reality, the feminine side of human existence and consciousness, the anima. It's there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, good stuff.
Really good stuff. Yeah. Well, that was great. I really appreciate it, Thomas. Thank you so much. Anything else to add?
Yeah, it also ties in with the age of Pisces because the Pisces is about in two states. The subcon, in deep dive into the water. They go under to bring out sort of realities. Isn't that how Pisces is? It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's a deep dive, so us above the water can retrieve things from the subconscious. So that ties in with this as well, the Pisces thing.
It
And,
does.
anything else? No, I just say just enjoy next year. Have a nice time, and everybody have a happy new year.
Yeah, and people will be able to enjoy themselves more after hearing this, and they don't need to dread anything, and we're all going to be fine.
Yeah, if you've done the work, if you're an NPC in the headlights, it's going to be a different thing. There'll be confusion there. But I think the worst that would happen then would be confusion and bewilderment. But maybe just maybe we're coming out of the bullshit that started in 2020, or at least there's light on the horizon.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Vesta, Flora, Freya, observe the moon, observe the subconscious world, keep a dream diary, don't fret over it, and prepare to gather that which you've grown from seed. I mean that like in a subconscious way and also a
Great.
literal way. Okay, very good.
Yeah. Thanks, Thomas.
You're welcome.
Thank
So
you.
happy New Year, and I'll see you in the psychic weather place next year.
Yep. Happy New Year. Okay, so now I'm with Leif, my friend Leif, and I can never say his last name again. So you go
Yeah.
ahead
Oh,
with your
yeah.
last.
I'm Leif Høyskog. Yes, it's a
Okay.
Norwegian name. It is quite hard to pronounce.
Yeah, it is. But we are going to be looking at the runes for 2026, just seeing what comes up. General advice for European people and what to expect. So have at it, Leif.
Okay, right. So I'm going to use the Elder Arc. I've got some handmade runes here. I'll just show you what they look like. So I'll just choose a rune. Oh, interesting. This is the rune I was thinking about putting on my fireplace. So I built a new fireplace and I've got the oak beams up now. So
Nice.
I was going to carve a rune on there, and this is the rune I was going to use.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah,
Fehu.
yeah. So I was going to calm that down a little bit with a Kenaz rune, because Fairhu on its own is far too wild and powerful to be putting anywhere, especially on your fireplace. So if you use a Kenaz rune with the Fairhu, little bit of information here. So you use a Kenaz rune with your Fairhu, it quietens down the rune, and puts it into a state where it can be transmuted physically into the physical realm. So that's what Kenaz does. It makes things real on this side, and not just like a huge wildfire, which is essentially what Fairhu is. Right, so I'll do a spread. Verdaan die Skuld. Okay, let's see what we've got. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to remove all of the runes that are facing down. So we don't use those. Not in this spread anyway. Some interesting things cropping up here. So this reading is going to be for 2026 as a general reading. I might indicate that this would be for tribe members, although it affects us all. Tribe members would need to know a few things in order to get by this next coming year, which could prove to be tumultuous.
Yeah.
So okay, so there's been a lot of portents and omens and auguries into this year already, and what this will do is it'll try and pinpoint some of the things that we're experiencing or about to experience. So central to this reading we have Algiz. Okay, so Algiz is right in the center of three runes, which is Isa, Fehu, and Uruz. So Algiz in the center there is a rune of protection, and a rune of diligence as well. It's a rune of seeing elf shot. So if you don't know what elf shot is, it's a magical ballistic missile headed in your direction, and it can cause all sorts of emotional damage, even physical harm, when it's cast to us. Now, Algiz is an excellent rune to dissipate this. So in modern electronics, the Algiz rune is an antenna. So the energy that's transmitted from an incoming piece of dark magic can be picked up at a very, very far distance. So what Algiz does, it puts up a disruptor. So like saying the Second World War, I'm not too sure about these days how they jam signals, but they would have jammed radar signals going in over the English coast, over the White Cliffs of Dover. They'd put the jamming signals on to help disrupt their pattern, and this is exactly what this does. So Algiz disrupts patterns. So either side we've got Fairhu inverted and Isa. So that tells me that there's going to be financial constraints. There's going to be times of economic collapse, which is not a bad thing. Okay, so we need this economy to collapse in order to get into a monetary system that's much more manageable by the people. And this is going to be over the next 5-year period. So we need to be aware that once the collapse happens, it's a good thing, because then we can go into a black market state, and govern the prices and goods ourselves. So it doesn't mean that there's going to be less stuff out there or less produce. It just means that we're going to have more control over what that is, and how that's sold and produced. So we are the workers, essentially. We are the people that make things. We're the people that provide. We're the farmers. We're the manufacturers. We govern this. We govern the economy. This is ours. It's nothing to do with the government, or should have nothing to do with them, because they want to collapse the economy in order to have more control over us and introduce a new currency, which will probably be digital. So this is going to give us more power in the end, because they can't foresee this. There's stuff happening, going on, that actually they have no control over, and they lost at the end of COVID. So their power's reduced a lot. And when I say they, I mean the secret unknowns, whatever you want to call them. I kind of avoid names like cabal and stuff, because it tends to give them power, or the elite. The elites.
Yeah, they're
There's
not
nothing.
elite.
There's nothing elite about them. So, interestingly, at the foot of Algiz is the rune Uruz. Now, Uruz is essentially about wild cattle, which is the aurochs, which it used to be up until about 10,000 years ago, quite prevalent around these parts, or in England especially, and the Norfolk Broads, that kind of area. And they were a huge, huge animal, at least twice the size of a bull, with horns that were 5 feet in length each. So you got a 10-foot span of horn. And they were aggressive, and they were probably the most powerful beast in the land. So any saber-toothed tigers or anything like that roaming the land would not go near them. They wouldn't touch them, just because of my own observations in nature, with certain bovine species in the wild. Lions and tigers tend not to bother them so much, because they can really fight back. So water buffalo, hippopotamus, stuff like that are much more dangerous than any lion. So we've got at the foot of Algiz, we've got Uruz, which is our own personal power. So this power is a deep personal vibration about your core self. It's about your warrior spirit and everything to do with it. It's to do with it's. I'm sure I've never equated it to Thor before, but I think his hammer has a certain amount of Uruz power, because this vibrates and hums with a constant thrum of electromagnetic charge, and it's placed right underneath Algiz. So this is the source of our protection, is our own personal warriorhood. In the end, right, I'm not saying this will happen in 2026, but in the end, we've got to fight, right? We've got to fight for our place in life. We've got to fight for our culture. We've got to fight in order to survive. And it has to happen. It cannot be a space where we say, well, we want to avoid conflicts and all of this lot, because when it's knocking at your door, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And you have to ask yourself that question, right? So we've got Fehu, Isa. So Isa is a rune of stasis. It's a rune of holding in place a certain period of time. I think we are talking about time here, and it's to do with the home and the homestead and the family. So the family unit is what we're protecting. Okay, so the family unit is what we must at all costs protect, because that is the basis of our culture, is the family. In most cultures, actually, in Northern Europe, it's the most important thing to people, and it's the reason why Othal or Odala, the rune of the homestead, is placed at the end of the rune rows of the third 8. So, like, it's interchangeable with Dargaz, but in this sense, the transformation is not yet complete. So we have to look at Odal as a place of fortification, like your own castle. You have to make sure that it's safe, make sure that it can't be intruded upon. Be wary at the door. Who's knocking, things like that. I don't want to invoke an element of fear here, because you shouldn't be frightened. What you need to be is ready. That's all. Just
Yeah.
be ready, in a state of preparedness and readiness.
Yeah.
Live your lives as you live them. This new flu virus thing is coming in now, so and they're going to attempt another lockdown. I'm sure they're going to attempt to try and inoculate you. Resist, 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 resist all the way, because you want to protect your health, your children, your home, and everything like that. So it's full of protection. This is what this next year is going to bring in. Oh wow, that's interesting. So while we're talking about the youth, weren't we? About males in particular, and the lack of testosterone and stuff like that. Well, it's because it's the rune rose saying they've got nothing to do here. They've got nothing to focus on. So we've got manas inverted, and also evas inverted. So you've got horses and people, and the two have been separated, right? So we don't work with horses anymore, and that's actually a sad thing, because the horse was our means of everything, of transport, of work, of fulfillment and joy, of companionship. It was the thing, right? So as a man that hasn't got horses, what I've chosen to do instead is ride a motorcycle, and for me, it's the next best thing. So it's not a living being or a living animal in any sense, but it's something that actually I can use for my own therapeutic way of being. So I go out on my bike for an hour or so. It puts the world to rights, and I
Yeah.
think that's what we need. We need the young men, especially, to know how to engage with themselves and know how to transcend the woes of the world, as it were. And the way to do that is through a vehicle or medium, evas here, that is usually associated with horses, but because horses aren't readily available or part of our lives anymore, unless you own them, this is telling you to actually take up some kind of hobby, take up something that you are interested in, take something up that's outside of work and even outside of your normal friend circles, your friendship circles. It needs to be something for you that you can look forward to. So, oh, God, there's some mysteries here. Okay, so there's things that aren't easily decipherable. So below an inverted Evas, we've got Bakana, and Bakana is a birthing rune. It's also the rune of female power and energy. Bakana here is very close to Sawilo, so it's the women. This is interesting. It's the women that are going to lead the men into being men, right? So if a man isn't being a man, guess what happens, right? Their woman or who they're with, their partners or whatever, are going to say, look, you're not behaving correctly here, but be a man. How many times have we been told to act like a man? Not much now, not much anymore. We're not being told to be manly or be men or anything like that. It's the women that are going to have the lightning bolt, the guiding light, the electromagnetic ray of sunshine that's going to enlighten men. So women, you need to get on your men's cases. If you consider that there's any slovenly behaviour, ergy behaviour, unmanly behaviour, anything like that, they need sorting out, and you need to point that right out to them in no uncertain terms, and don't beat about the bush either.
It
Don't.
makes it makes me think about chickens. If you have a flock of hens,
Yeah,
and there's a rooster and he's not defending the hens, they'll actually peck him to death.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And nobody wants to be henpecked, but hey, stop acting like this. Stop being this way because it's doing your family unit no good.
Yeah.
Get out to work. If you're claiming benefits and you're not sick or poorly, get up off your arse and get out and earn a crust, get earn a living, bring it home and feel part of things.
Hmm.
Right? Get on some projects. I'm building a little fireplace here.
Yeah.
I've got other things to do. I've done all the guttering outside. I've fitted a new tap. Simple things, but it's what the men should be doing. Be a man about it. Don't expect your woman to be doing these things.
Hmm.
Although she might be handy and she might actually be doing these things, but it's only because you're not.
Yeah.
Get out of yourself. Start doing stuff. Very,
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah. And women should also allow the men to be men.
Yes,
They should, because a lot of women these days treat their man like he should be like he's some replacement for like a female best friend or a sister, and that's not right either because you're emasculating him by that.
definitely. But is that something that can actually happen in terms of reality? Because the men are so dug in because they've been told for years not to be men.
Mm.
You must be 10 years or more, maybe, that they've been told to reverse that, and now they're being told something else. I tell you what, though, it's down to your own personal, individual self. As a man, you're not feeling like a man anymore. Do something about it.
Yeah,
Do something about it. Start opening doors, for ladies, or opening the car door, or escorting ladies down the street on the correct side, which is in the inside of the road. So the man walks on the outside and the lady walks on the inside, and that's traditionally that's how I've been brought up, and that's how I act and interact and react to my environment. You can't take that away from me. If somebody's telling me that they don't want this or don't want that, okay, that's fair enough. I mean, I can't force uh, who I am on anybody else, but I'll certainly think twice about that individual, not
yeah.
about the rest of society and women. You don't have to shut yourself down because of three people's opinion.
That's right. And I think a lot of women, I know if you look at media and all of that, you would think, oh, women don't want that anymore. Well, I speak on behalf of me and my friends. We do want it. We do.
Yeah,
And we
yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah. I mean, it's the women that I speak to tell me all the time that actually they want to go back to traditional values and the old ways. They regret being any type of feminist. It's okay to be a strong woman. In fact, it's more than okay. It's what men need, really. But they regret going down that path, and now they've got jobs and everything. They're finding the world of work very stressful, and all they want to do is raise children. And this is coming from women.
Yep.
And I'm more than happy to support any woman that wants a career. But at the end of the day, she has a calling in life, and it doesn't just involve children either. It involves the home and looking after it and making sure that her keys are many. So
That's right.
back in the day, 1,000 years ago, women would have social status with the amount of keys she has, because it tells you how much property that she has to govern and make right, repair, clean, and all the rest of it. So the keys were a huge status symbol back in the day. That's something that has been lost, but we can regain it in other ways. I mean, looking closer at this bottom set of runes, we've got Gifu, which can be quite prickly sometimes if things aren't returned in time. So when you accept gifts, especially at this time of year, it's about giving back, and it's about keeping the cycle of gifts going. So that coincides very well with Fairhu, actually, because when you want to acquire wealth isn't something in terms of how much money you've got. Wealth is actually where you sat and what you have around you in order to make your life comfortable. That's that, and if you own livestock, even better, because then you've got a conduit to more wealth coming in. But that only works if you give back. So it doesn't necessarily mean giving money away to charity, because that's a dead duck, really, charities, especially today, because you more than likely giving 75% of what you've given to some CEO, and their lifestyle. It's not going out to where it needs to be. So what I mean by giving back is giving of yourself to your community, being in service and checking out whoever is homeless, or if there is have got mental health issues and they need extra help, make sure they get that. Try and get them off the streets. Talk to your neighbours. Talk to your neighbours. How many times do we just we don't even say good morning to them? They're living next door or across the road or anything. Back in the day, I love going back in the day. So back in the day, what they do is they go across the garden fence and have a gossip. And gossiping is an ancient practiced art. It's not usually, or wasn't usually, a negative thing, although there are some negative outcomes that came from gossiping. But it's the same as bragging rights. So braggy was the term for bragging rights. So that's where we get the word bragging from, and it meant standing up on a chair and telling everybody how brilliant you are, right, and telling how well you've done, and telling what battles that you've won, who you've conquered, what lands you've taken. So be proud of yourself. Go out there and let people know what the good you've done, and what you've done for your community. It's very, very important. So that's what Gifu is here. It's about the return of energy. So things will only ever come to you if you return. So it's a cycle of events. It's not just this linear, I'm going to accrue wealth and I'm going to be rich, rich, rich. No rich man is wealthy.
That's true.
They are not. Okay, so then we're going to the final rune here, which is Perthrow. Now, Perthrow in and of itself is a mysterious rune. It has connections with birthing rights as well, because the shape of the rune in Perthrow, if you notice, is it looks like somebody on all fours giving birth. So back in the day, you wouldn't be lying on your back; you'd be on all fours, in that position, and give birth that way, because your body is more aligned for childbirth in that sort of position. So this is about the birthing process, and I've looking around over the past 5 years or so, or even 10 years, how many children have you noticed in the push chairs? Not many. How many children have you noticed are really young, babies or whatever? So like when we were younger in the 80s and 90s and even the 70s, there were children everywhere, really, really young children, and now there's not so many. So I believe it's part of the population cull, part of, and I'm not suggesting people are killing babies, but they're just not being born. They're not being born into the world, and they're our future.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at rights around everything and birthing rights, children aren't celebrated anymore. They're not welcomed, and the men don't light up a cigar anymore.
That's right.
And actually, men really have no place in the birthing hall. So the birthing hall is strictly a female zone, and men stand outside for a reason. They do. I mean, they can offer all the support and everything, but during the birthing process, traditionally speaking, men need to actually say that is something that the women need to take over and do, because they carry the power there, and the energy, and the creativity to create life. We're just in essence a conduit to that life. We have a part to play, but it's the woman that creates life within her. And we're going to see a boom in the birthing rate will go up
Good.
next year. This is on the cards.
Good.
It's very early stages at the moment, but there's going to be an influx of young people and children, but they need to be cared for correctly and properly. traditionally in terms of how we raise children or how I was raised. Well, maybe not how I was raised because I had quite a difficult childhood, but in terms of how I'd raise a child now and how my grandchildren are raised and stuff like that, that would be how to go on. So we need to care for our kids and we need to make sure that they're in a good place, enough to become good and responsible adults later in life. So it starts with us. It begins and ends with us. We're the people that will create in every way the next generation, and the next generation has to hold fast when it comes to repression and being suppressed. They won't tolerate it. Maybe if you look at it astrologically, Fiona, at some point, the next generation that come through, see what the planets are doing, because this generation that's coming will not stand for any of these shenanigans that are occurring right now. And it's starting to come out in kids that are like 10, 11 years old now. They're saying, no, I'm not, that's a man. That's a
Yeah.
man. They say that. That's a man. It doesn't matter what you're telling me. It's a bloke.
Yeah. You're
You know what I
right.
mean?
I can
Yeah.
totally see that. They've had
Mm.
enough of it. And a lot of them are actually born immune to this nonsense.
Yeah.
I do readings for young men in particular and in their 20s. They blow me away.
Mm.
They're born immune to a lot of this stuff, which is
Yeah.
great.
It's brilliant. Yeah. So I mean, the generation that was fooled and fell for all of this need to heal themselves. And certainly got a lot of work to do on themselves if they want to be part of this tribe or part of our community. I'm not close to welcoming them in if they've undergone the necessary changes about who they are, their identity, and what is actually happening in reality.
Yeah.
I'm still open to the idea of actually bringing them forward, but as it stands, it's currently my door shut.
Mm-hmm.
Currently,
Yeah.
it's shut. They're not getting through the firewall. Uh,
No. Too
no,
much tolerance for that kind of thing. I mean, that's why we've got into this mess. It's
yeah,
too much tolerance.
far too much tolerance. Because what you're doing is you're letting your own culture go, and your own values and set of core beliefs are being eroded and cancelled. And but I'm not having it. So,
No.
as a person in everyday life and at work, especially when I'm working with social workers that are quite
Mm-hmm.
lefty, I stand my ground, and I think they respect that. They
Good.
might not agree with me, but I am not changing my thoughts and opinions, and I won't say anything detrimental to my work or the children I work with. But I'm certainly not going to conform to these new values that are being introduced that actually destroy people.
Yeah, good. If you can do that in your profession, then the rest of us can also do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've gone through it. I mean, I could spend hours on it, but that in general is our outlook for the next coming year.
Very good. Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much for that, Leif. That was super helpful, and I could listen to you all day.
Oh, thank you very much, Fiona. Likewise as well. I love these sessions. They're really good.
Great. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm here with my friend Jason Heppenstall, and we are going to be looking at ogham and the geomancy reading for 2026. Hi, Jason. How are you doing?
Hi Fiona, I'm really good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. So, do you want to explain a bit about geomancy? Because I'm sure a lot of people don't know what it is, including myself. My first introduction was you on Facebook.
Yeah, sure. I came across geomancy probably about 3 years ago, and I didn't know what it was either. But when I learned a bit about it, I found it quite fascinating because what it actually is some people say it's like the forgotten Western oracle. It was used a lot in the Middle Ages and in Renaissance times. It was used a lot in the courts of Europe. They would all have a geomancer. And geomancy, derives from the Greek term geo, meaning the earth, and mancy, meaning divination. So it's a form of divination that uses the earth and natural methods. And there's different ways you can do it. And I picked on a particular way of doing it that felt right for me, and I've been practicing it ever since.
Great. So what tools do you actually use then?
So traditionally, you would kind of scratch. It sounds a bit weird, but you would scratch lines in the sand. So people would take a stick and they would randomly scratch lines, and then they would count up the lines. And if it was a an even number, that would give them a result of two, and then an odd number would give them a result of one. So in that way, it's a kind of a binary divination form. And the when you look into geomancy, people say that it originated in the Middle East and it was quite often used in North Africa, hence the scratching of, a stick in the sand. But I don't think that's true. I think it actually goes back a lot further than that to sub-Saharan Africa, even. We're talking like millennia ago, because that's where all the binary divination forms came from. And it has a kind of a an Eastern equivalent in the I Ching. So if you like, it's a kind of a Western form of the I Ching.
Okay.
But I don't use sticks or sand because even though I live in Cornwall and there's lots of beaches here, I can't be bothered to go out and scratch around in the sand every time I want to do a reading. So what I do is I've got a bag of stones. I got the stones from the beach, and the method is simply to get the stones and cast them, dip your hand into the bag, cast them on the table in front of you, and then count them up. And the same as, if it was lines in the sand or dots, you can also draw dots randomly on a piece of paper and count them. You just count them up, and an odd number gives a one, and an even number gives a two. And then from those readings, you build up characters. And let me see, I think I've got a character sheet around here. So you plot these onto a chart like that. And there's a certain method to do to get a result. So you have to start off building up what's called the mothers, and then you build up the daughters, and then from those you can establish nieces, and then from the nieces you can establish three key figures called the left witness, the right witness, and the judge, which are going to be the key kind of characters that you use for your divination purposes. And each character has a certain set of attributes and a certain set of correspondences. So they correspond to the different planets, they correspond to different elements, they correspond to different months of the year, things like that. So there's an awful lot of information that it builds up that you can work with. And I mean, there's a lot to it. And I would say that I am really only just a beginner. And I think with any sort of form of divination, you have to work with it for quite a while, and check your results against reality, and see if it actually corresponds.
Hmm.
And then, you get like iterative feedback from your results, and then you might adjust your method or adjust your interpretation as you see fit.
Okay. Wow, very interesting. Quite complex as well.
It is very complex. I don't think it's as complex as astrology, which is something, but there's plenty to it, and really, it's undergoing a kind of a resurrection at the moment. So there's plenty of people. Well, I say plenty of people, a few people out there, sort of trying, going back to some very old tomes, and researching as much as they can to try and find out more.
Hmm. Yeah. Excellent.
Mm.
So, what have you got for 2026 then?
Okay, so with geomancy, I find it useful because I do use another form of divination, and that's the ogham, which I'll talk about in a bit. But with geomancy, I find that's the best method for kind of mundane matters to do with the fate of nations and politics and all that sort of thing, rather than personal divination. So, as the querent, I simply ask it a question, and the question I asked it was, what is the outlook for the people of Europe in 2026? You've got to be very careful with how you frame the question, because I didn't want to say Europe, because that could mean the EU, or it could mean the political masters, or the
Mm.
the political classes or something. I'm talking about the everyday people of Europe, including Britain. I'm talking, geographically here. So that was the question I asked it. What is the outlook for the people of Europe in 2026? Um, I am very interested in geopolitics, and I follow what's going on fairly closely. And I think that at the moment we are at a kind of a key phase geopolitically. It's probably the most important moment since the Second World War at the moment.
Mm.
What we're seeing is we are, our European so-called leaders are sort of urging us on to an unwinnable war against a formidable adversary that isn't really even our adversary. And at
Yeah.
the same time, our longtime ally, the United States, is kind of backing away from us, you know, kind of almost seeing. I mean, America about a month ago released a new sort of strategy for national defense. And for the first time ever, it was kind of implying that Europe was no longer really an ally. It was
Oh,
being led by crazies. And they were saying, Europe is at a turning point, really. And that's why I was very interested in this question, what is in store for the people of Europe in 2026. So anyhow, the result that I got was quite interesting. So the right witness, which is the character that is derived, and it sort of refers to the past. It kind of refers to the situation that led up to, sorry, the basis that led up to the situation that we currently find ourselves in. And the character that I got for that, because each geomantic figure it looks a little bit like a domino. So it's a series of dots, two dots, one dot, three dots, and there's 16 of them, I think. And each one corresponds to a certain figure. And in this case, it was Cauda Draconis, which basically means tail of the dragon. So that is a very unfavorable character that has led to this current situation. It usually represents loss. It corresponds to the element of fire, and it's often associated with war. So
mm.
that is the situation that's kind of led to our current predicament, according to my geomantic sources. So the left witness, sorry, I should go for the judge next. The judge is the one, the central figure in all of this. So the judge is the overall result. And the figure I got was conjunctio, which is very interesting because conjunctio means a combination of forces and people that have led to a current situation. And it also refers to things that have been lost. So there's a sense that we in Europe have lost something for some reason, and that there's a lack of balance because this is the judge figure.
Hmm.
And possibly the most interesting one is the left witness, which is relating to the future. So in this case, my question was about 2026, and the figure I got was Letitia, which basically means joy. So Letitia corresponds to happiness and health. It's a very favorable figure, probably the most favorable figure, which, to be honest, I wasn't expecting. I
Yeah.
really wasn't. But it kind of implies a sense of waking up, a sense of something stirring and bringing balance back. So whether that means, the people of Europe really at this point are going to say, right, we've had enough. We've had enough of our sort of undemocratic political class. We've had enough of all the restraints and restrictions and kind of processes that have been put on us. Whether they're starting to attain a critical mass or not, I don't know. But it's a very positive figure So as I
Good.
said, I was quite surprised by that result.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I think honestly the European people have also lost themselves and their own spirit,
Hmm.
you know, through the kind of the comfort of the modern world, you
Hmm.
know, and they've stopped fighting and they've
Hmm.
stopped as a whole like doing the right thing, I think.
Yeah.
And it takes some kind of crisis to return to that and to awaken the European spirit.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, this could be the cold slap of reality is sort of bringing people out of that slumber that they've been in for so long, with our sort of comfortable Western lifestyle and thinking, that everything, we're the best and, nothing could ever possibly go wrong. That kind of progressive
Mm.
mindset.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Yeah, very good. That actually is quite encouraging then,
Hmm.
because we're starting to see a flame of that, aren't we? A return of that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think we're starting to see that everywhere. Um, a lot of the places that we look at online, there's signs that, people that you might have considered were, let's say, half asleep are starting to actually question things.
Yeah.
And the media is doing a great job of waking people up because they're just so over the top hysterical with everything at the moment.
Yeah.
Even you know, even the sort of most asleep of us, could not fail to notice that there's something strange going on.
That's right. Yeah, and for the people that aren't noticing, there's literally no hope for them anyway, so they can
Yeah,
just
exactly. They're never
can
going to, realize.
no, they definitely are an NPC class of people. I mean,
Hmm.
there's no
Hmm.
doubt about it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, you could call them that.
Yeah. So anything more with the geomancy then?
Um, I could maybe, I mean, I could tell you like about its effectiveness. I'll give you a little story, because I started doing it about a couple of years ago, I think, and then I did it for a while, and I was trying to test the results. And after a while, one of them just really didn't seem to work, so I kind of lost interest in it for a little while. But then something I found out later on kind of confirmed that the result was likely true.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you remember, but there was a kind of a teenager or young man went missing from England in Tenerife, who's called Jay Slater.
Yep, I remember it
And everyone
well.
was going, "What happened to him? What happened to him?" Like he might have
Yeah.
fallen off a cliff or something because he went out on a night out with friends to a nightclub and basically was never seen again. And everybody was searching for him. I think there were hundreds of police and rescue people combing the island of Tenerife, which is, of course, one of the Spanish Canary Islands. And I was interested in the case because it was just such a mystery. So I actually did a geomantic reading on it, and it gave a very clear answer. The main figure that it was pointing at, and by the way, with the figures from geomancy, you can cast them into a house chart, same as astrology. So
Mm.
you can see what they correspond to and the most likely outcome and what it relates to and all that sort of thing. So it gives you a much deeper insight. So I did that with this, and the figure that kept coming up was reckless young man, you know,
Yeah.
and it was basically saying that he was a very, very reckless person, and that he'd done something that had angered some not very nice people, and that he was being held a prisoner. So
Oh.
I was thinking, well, he's being held a prisoner somewhere. So that went on for a while. And then if you remember in the news, they found his dead body at the bottom of a ravine. And they said, oh, he must have fallen off when he was drunk or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this doesn't correspond with the information that I got. So I kind of put away my geomancy stones for a while and concentrated on something else. But then a few months later, I met somebody from the Canary Islands, from Tenerife, and he knew that area intimately, and he knows the club scene. He was a young guy. Um, and he told me what everyone was saying on the island, and that was that he somehow got mixed up with selling drugs or something, or he might have stolen somebody's watch, a gangster. And apparently, there's a lot of gangsters on that island, and they kind
Yeah.
of have a pact with the police to not
Oh,
interfere with one another. It's a very fine balance. There's a lot of drug smuggling going on because it's, fairly close to Africa. Um, so he somehow got involved with that, everybody's saying, and that he'd been taken off and taught a lesson and probably locked up somewhere remote in the mountains for a few days. And then when they'd finished with him, they just threw him off this precipice. He
yeah.
said that it was impossible, in his view, for somebody to accidentally walk off that precipice, even if they were very drunk. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I actually did an astrology reading on it
Mm,
and I made a video, but I never released it
mm,
because I also thought it was wrong.
hmm.
And I only
Yeah,
shared it with a couple of close friends. And
yeah.
that was pretty much what I saw as well.
Hmm.
And I think that one thing that stood out is that they found his phone.
Mm,
I mean, if you're going to murder someone, what do? You throw their phone away so that they
hmm.
can't be traced.
Hmm.
So I would agree with that. And yeah, when you're using divination and it seems to be wrong somehow, it does make you go, I'm not going to look at that anymore.
Mm,
But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And I remember that clearly. You did
hmm.
that geomancy reading. And it was, exactly as you say, like the people told you, there's no way he could
Yeah,
have got up there
yeah,
himself.
yeah, yeah. He said it was basically impossible. It's a bit like saying, somebody's gone missing in London and then they were found at the bottom of, the cliffs of Beachy Head, 100 miles away.
Uh-huh.
To
That's right.
somebody maybe in America, they might say, "Oh, well, it's just, down the road, kind of thing." But if you live locally, you think, "Well, that's not possible, surely." Not
Yeah.
have just accidentally wandered off. So anyhow, that
Well,
was an interesting result, I thought.
yeah, very good.
Mm.
Excellent. So, will we go on to the OM then?
Yeah, sure. So what the ogham is just another method. I don't know if people are familiar with it. Maybe some people are. And I use that sort of day to day for sort of personal divination. Sometimes it's just I just pick a card, what do I need to be aware of today? And now the ogham is the Irish tree alphabet. And it dates back to Celtic times, and basically it's a form of writing that, well, we don't know for sure, but it's kind of like the suspicion is that Druids would have used it as a kind of a secret language, certainly after the Christian sort of conquest. And then it kind of died out, and it's one of these other things that is being resurrected at the moment with as much knowledge as we can glean from the past is being applied to it. So it might not be 100% the same as it was back in the day, if you like, but it is a powerful form of divination. Um, and it takes the form of, I think it's 25 different letters in the alphabet, and it can be carved onto these sticks, and then put in a bag, and you can pick them out. Or the form that I normally use is cards, which are
Yeah.
a bit like tarot cards, but each letter corresponds to a tree. So there's different
Okay.
trees. Um, And so I did a reading. I mean, as I said, normally I use that for sort of personal divination means, but there's no reason it can't be used for mundane reasons, mundane reading, sorry. So I did one, and I asked the exact same question of the ogham that I asked of the geomantic stones. Um, so I asked, what's the outlook for the people of Europe in 2026? And it came up. I picked three cards. One of them relates to the past, one relates to the future, one relates to the current situation. So the past, I got sailor, which is willow. Um, Now this tree relates most closely to the goddess Bridget, and it's to do with balanced spirituality. So it's talking about like in the past, the Europeans had a fairly balanced spirituality, which kind of implies that we may no longer have a balanced spirituality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and that was upright. If it's reversed, then the meaning is reversed. So this was, this wasn't reversed. Um, and then the middle card, which relates to our current situation, was very interesting because it's whenever I pick this card, I'm like, oh my God, I was hoping it wouldn't be this card, but it was, and it was Strafe, which is the Blackthorn. And that's basically the worst card that you can pick. It means utter despair, it means there are no good choices, and that we've kind of made our bed and we have to lie on it.
Hmm.
There's going to be pain. We've been backed into a corner. We have to live with the consequences of our actions or inactions, probably in this case. And it's a time of disruption and pain. And I thought, well, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
You know, we've got our political classes are just seemingly desperate for, a war.
Hmm.
And they're telling us we have to sort of, sign our sons and daughters up to the armies and stuff like that. Amazingly. So that card seemed to be the perfect one for our current situation. And then there's a third card which relates to the future. And I thought, oh, what's this going to be? And it actually, when I turned it over, it was Oya, which is the spindle tree. And I don't know if you've seen spindle trees. They're not that common, to be honest. I think they used to be more common. Um, they're quite often used for making tools because their wood is very, very hard and sort of unbreakable. But also they're very light coloured. The bark is almost white and they're spindly. That's where we get the word spindle from. So in terms of the ogham, that relates to great happiness. Um, but it's only happiness that comes from doing the necessary work to complete, that sort of satisfaction. It relates to a strong white light, illumination, spiritual illumination either, and completion of a final hardest battle.
Mm.
So again, that was quite a positive card that I actually wasn't really expecting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is
Yeah,
good. It
yeah.
is. Because I really think that things have to come to a head, like your first card. There has to be
Hmm.
that the final battle or the, destruction of something for it to be replaced
Yeah.
with the light or with something good.
Hmm.
Do you think that that positivity is going to come in next year or is it going to be afterwards?
It's difficult to say. I mean, like, speaking sort of, in terms of like political analysis, it's hard to see. I mean, I think things take longer to change than just within a year. But on the other hand, it might be a kind of a quiet flame that's growing within people. So that's what it might be referring to. It might be a turning point, if you like, rather than, the actual completion, which might be several years down the line.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
That's
Very
how I
good.
see it anyway.
Yeah, I would agree. And it
Hmm.
like the astrology really reflects what you're saying as well.
Yeah. Okay, do
So,
it. Yeah.
yeah. So any advice for people? What should we do? How should we approach what's coming?
Well, I think one of the key things is to stay sane. You know, that because if you don't have your sanity, you can't really rely on it on anything else. What I do is I do, a daily protection ritual.
Yeah.
I limit my sort of exposure to mass media, and whether that's mainstream media or social media or anything else like that, try not to get sucked in by it. It's so easy to get sucked into sort of flame wars and,
Mm.
deliberately provocative articles that are put out there, and they're doing that more and more now to sort of get people sort of, raging,
Yeah.
fighting one another. The more that we fight one another, the easier it is for them to control us.
That's right.
So I definitely say that. Go out for a walk in nature. I know that sounds really trite, but really, like nature is unchanging, and it grounds us and balances us. And just focus on something um, that you're creating. It doesn't really matter what it is. It doesn't matter if you're writing a book or writing a song or creating a nice garden or a nice home to live in, or even bringing up your children in the right way. As long as you're creating something positive. Because we don't defeat things by railing against them all the time. We defeat things by creating positive things
Hmm.
that people are then attracted to. And then they look at certain people and they say, well, they seem to have it all sorted out. They're happy. I want to be like them. What are they doing? I think that's the way to stay balanced and grounded in the coming turbulent times.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure, especially staying away from all the negative and inflammatory news
Hmm.
articles.
Hmm.
I've started to do that myself. Like I don't care anymore. I don't
Yeah.
want to look at it. It's a circus anyway. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a pantomime. It's got so ridiculous, the whole thing.
Hmm.
So I'm just going to stay in my own bubble and go outside and pet my animals.
Yeah.
And the evidence that we will win and that we will be okay eventually is actually in nature because right now
Hmm.
it's winter. Everything's
Hmm.
dead. The ground is hard. The leaves have gone, but summer's gonna come again. It's just around the corner. So
Yeah.
everything ends and everything starts again. That's just the way it's always going to be.
Well, exactly. They say the darkest hour is just before dawn.
That's right.
Mm.
Yeah. Great stuff. Very good. Thanks so much. This was super interesting,
Mm. Can
Jason.
I can I just say, for anyone interested in geomancy, this book is really good. I don't know if can you see that? It's John Michael
Earth.
Greer,
Yeah.
Earth Divination, Earth Magic is called. Really good. And for anyone interested in ogham, I would recommend this. Colin Murray's cards, and you get a booklet in it and all sorts of things. So that's also very good. Those are the ones that I use.
Very good. Yeah, I'll definitely be getting those for sure because I'm really interested in the geomancy. I know I'm as well. It's in my blood. I'm an
Yeah.
Ulster Scot, so
Yeah. Well, exactly. It's your
yeah,
language.
it is. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jason. Thanks for joining me
Thank
today.
you, Fiona.
Take care.
See you. Bye.
Bye.